The 5-Second Rule. Bring change to your life and business through daily women's practice. Summary of the book The 5-Second Rule. Written by Mel Robbins. In life, we come across successful men and others who are not, and we may have moments when we are unable to classify a star in which category we are. Sometimes we are less successful than the outstanding ones, and at other times we are better off than the losers, and we end up placing a star in the box between the two categories. This box in which we place ourselves is fluctuating and unclear, and we may think that it provides us with protection from the criticism and judgment of others. If one of us reaches such a situation, let him know well that he is a victim of himself and not a victim of others. His condition and his continuation of it are the work of his hands, which are tied by fear of the unknown and not wanting to try. Among the thousands of solutions that therapists promote in their books and lectures, the 5-second rule is the easiest of all. It is free self-treatment that does not depend in any way on others and does not expect solutions or even support from them. Are you ready to know how to apply it and benefit from it? Chapter the 1st, The 5-Second Rule saves a person from the comfort zone that life's problems push him into. At some point in my life, getting out of bed became the hardest decision I had to make. From the moment I opened my eyes in the morning, this simple act did not become a burden on my shoulders in vain. It coincided with a struggle I was experiencing with myself and with others, and it resulted in problems that affected me professionally, personally, and psychologically. I took the bed as a refuge because I didn't want to face my fears and problems. I developed a habit of repeatedly pressing the snooze key on alarm clocks, many times, as if by doing so I was rejecting any attempt to change the state I was in. But one night, before the TV was turned off, I came across a scene of a space rocket about to take off. The scene was accompanied by a countdown sound. 5, 4. Then the missile left its platform impulsively, without anything obstructing it. The sight of the missile moved something inside me. I was determined to get out of bed the next morning just like him, and this is what actually happened. As soon as I opened my eyes, I remembered the sight of the missile. I ignored myself, which at that moment told me not to care about it, and got out of bed without thinking. It was precisely at this moment that I discovered the 5-second rule. The secret and success of this rule lies in its simplicity, and that it prevents hesitation, or even thinking about options other than direct action and confronting fears. It is also applicable in all situations and to all people. The 5-second rule develops in a person the ability to control himself and his actions. The energy that helps him achieve the desired action is pushed into him, and reaching the highest performance, which gives him a feeling of freedom and a greater ability to achieve and produce. Chapter 2, Boldness in Words and Actions, is a person's way of expressing his value and moral and personal principles. Our lack of courage and the control of fear make us hesitant to move forward in life, and they are what make us miss opportunities that may come our way once. Many people tried the 5-step rule to confront their fears, and the young man, Jose, was one of them. He followed the rule to push himself to negotiate with his manager at work to increase his salary. The rule gave him the courage to prove to the manager his right to an increase and his value as an employee. Indeed, the manager was convinced of Jose's position and was influenced by his boldness. He got a raise of $2 an hour when fears take over tomorrow. A person begins to wait for an excuse to postpone matters and lives in the false hope that a day will come when his conditions will improve without taking any steps. A person resorts to such actions thinking that he is protecting himself from problems, even though he knows in the depths of his soul that they will cause problems, and he may also resort to them to hide from the harm that others cause him. Silverstone, negative judgments, sadness. Another fear that hinders a person's life is the fear of change. This is simply because the person does not know what is behind the change and what is in the future, and there is no guarantee that everything will be fine, so the 5-second rule helps to change gradually, without consequences or shocks. It can be started with a very simple exercise. Prepare for this exercise on the night you go to bed. The first step is to set the alarm clock 30 minutes earlier than the normal wake-up time, and put the clock in another room. Secondly, as soon as you wake up after the alarm clock rings, immediately and without thinking throw away the covers. Get out of bed and leave the bedroom, and avoid covering your head with the pillow. Or go back to sleep. The importance of this exercise is that it teaches a person to resist his negative habits and works to change them while continuing to practice. It also gives a person a feeling of victory over what hinders him and prevents him from achieving. Chapter 3. A person ruins his day when he presses the snooze key on his alarm clock and forces M to get out of bed. He wants to email several questions inquiring about the effectiveness of the 5-second rule and making a difference. If the rule is applicable to different problems, among these questions, there are people who focus on the issue of health and want to improve it by losing some extra kilograms or reducing cholesterol and other healthy methods. This category of people must be well aware before following the 5-second rule in order to make their lifestyle healthier. Simply thinking about health and making plans to improve it without taking action will do absolutely nothing. They also have to resist their desires and the burden of anxiety that prevents them from starting exercise and eating healthy food. In fact, following healthy methods and diets is not an easy matter, especially if this is accompanied by a feeling of deprivation from eating the beloved foods that the soul craves from time to time. But it is necessary to put an end to the dominance of emotions and consider them a priority in order to get rid of the lack of desire for change. The moment feelings try to impose themselves, they must be suppressed and downplayed, and actions must be prioritized. The 5-second rule helps increase productivity by focusing on priorities and avoiding putting them off. Your productivity as a human being is closely linked to your sleep and wakefulness. Getting enough sleep, then waking up to move on with your day increases your level of productivity and clarity of mind. Regarding the relationship between productivity and the way you wake up from sleep, scientists have concluded that pressing the short snooze key in the stimulant negatively affects brain functions. Its productivity lasts 4 hours. Chapter 4. Anxiety is a disease that parents transmit to their children to make their lives more miserable. Have you ever wondered why we worry? Anxiety? A feeling that comes to a person's mind when he tends to think about negative things? The only solution to this is self-control and positive thinking. In fact, you cannot prevent yourself from worrying, but you can prevent its spread from ruining your life and your relationships with others. By our nature as human beings, we are always afraid that something bad will happen to our loved ones and relatives, and we are afraid of losing them, which is why we worry about them and are suspicious of things that might cause them harm. This may cause them a state of discomfort, make them feel restricted, or may affect their self-confidence and give them constant obsessions of anxiety and fear that something bad might happen to them at any moment. In one of the stories, a wife spoke and said that one day my husband bought a small used bicycle, and as soon as I saw him riding it on the road, I automatically became worried and afraid for him. I was afraid that an accident would happen, or that my phone would ring and a policeman would tell me that something had happened, and that the 5-second rule had become a part of my life. I quickly regained control of myself and realized that my anxiety would not prevent or change anything, and would not bring about any calamity other than prostitution. Therefore, I get what I am in by counting 5. 43:21. then I imagine my husband riding his scooter, smiling, in the best and healthiest condition. On the other hand, many parents suffer from defects in raising their children and instill in them a feeling of anxiety at an early age. These children usually end up as adults who worry about the simplest things. If you want the best for your children, give them enough freedom and make them feel your appreciation for them and their behavior. Chapter 5. Interrupt the voice of your brain that makes you feel helpless and inferior if you want to succeed in your life. If you ask people what they think about self-confidence, they will say that it is about personality. In their view, a self-confident person has a distinctive personality and an overwhelming presence. This answer reflects a mistaken belief that self-confidence is something that a person is born with and makes him different from others. But the opposite is true, as it is a skill that a person can learn when he is determined to do so. The 5-second rule can be used to gradually build self-confidence. When you feel that you want to do something, but at the same time you are afraid of the reactions of others, or feeling embarrassed, do it immediately without thinking within 5 seconds before your mind with negative thoughts discourages you from doing it. The reason for most of our problems with others is that we do not disclose to each other matters that require clarification to resolve misunderstandings and points of disagreement between us on the matter that leads to spoiling our relationship with them, or taking over estrangement over it. Silence is the real problem. By first taking the initiative to break it, you will realize how trivial the reasons for disagreement are. You will increase your self-confidence, and with faith as if you are a good person who appreciates the value of others and respects their opinions, differences in thinking, and outlook on life, which will automatically impose your respect on them. What distinguishes the 5-second rule from other methods of human development and personality building is that it motivates people to embrace the so-called saving idea as a way of life to confront life's fears, which prevents him from the purpose for which he was created in this world. The essence of this idea lies in its reassurance to a person that he will reap goodness at the end of life's difficult paths if he adheres to faith in himself and resists the fears that try to drag him to the bottom. A notable paragraph from the book. The 5-second rule only works based on one thing. You. There are great things within you, and even when you are at your lowest, that greatness is still there. The 5-second rule will give you all the necessary clarity needed to hear the voice within you, and to have the courage to act on it. Using this rule, I discovered the boldness I had to have in order to do things. I spent many years thinking about it, but I used to make various excuses in order to take action, and then I was able to release the energy inside me by moving to action in order to become the person I always wanted to be. Conclusion: in order for a person to ensure a life free of regret, of missing opportunities and hesitation, he must live his days trying to avoid such things. The problem with many people is that they do not realize their true ability as human beings to control their lives, to live the way they aspire, and to achieve their dreams and goals in life. There may be moments when a person loses the desire to do anything. It may go beyond that to lose the desire to continue living. The causes of these negative feelings may be beyond a person's control and may be imposed on him by limited life circumstances. However, this does not mean that he is not responsible and capable of changing his condition, and when a person stops playing the role of a victim and begins to change in action and not in words, only then will the doors of opportunity open before him, and he becomes a new person with a new spirit and with experience in life and its lessons.